Alright, so I've seen Mufasa The Lion King, and this is the prequel to the live-action Lion King from 2019, where this follows the story of Mufasa, who is a lost orphan, and this is the story of an orphan who becomes a king, essentially the Lion King, of course. And even with for what I'm about to talk about here is not only like am I gonna like rant on it a little bit, or it's something that I found it really good, but it's a mixed bag for me on a ton of levels. But we'll get into all right here. And so this will be my full non-spoiler review, just to go over what I liked, what I didn't like, and why Disney would even make this movie, and there's so much more to talk about here as well. And so if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so it's on any future bits. But now let's talk about this movie. And now, if y'all know The Lion King, and that is the original animated film, it means one of Disney's greatest animated classic films of all time. Especially, it's one of my personal favorites as well, because it's got like beautiful quotes, iconic music, and like gorgeous animation, of course. Because even though I have really emotions towards that film, it remains iconic and on the top of my list. But even later down the line, they made this movie into live action that was released back in 2019. That was directed by Jon Favreau, that cost over $1 billion. But even with the direction of what that movie was heading, but even though I have no memory of that film whatsoever, plus it was in live action, they use hyper realistic animals, so there's no real emotions, and it was like a shot by shot, a kind of like documentary style, just to fit like the animated movie, which had no purpose served whatsoever. But I did appreciate that they were trying to go for something here as like a moneymaker or like a cash grab product. But even now that they announced a prequel to the live action movie, the remake called Mufasa The Lion King, and even though I had a slight bit of hesitation, and even though when I first saw the first piece of marketing, I thought, wow, this would be interesting to tell the story of Mufasa and his backstory, like telling the flashbacks of Mufasa, who will later become the Lion King. Well, that is particularly like it was technically not, because like even for how the story is told, because this is with Mufasa, who is revealed to be a lost orphan, who became brothers with Taika, who will later become Scar, who is like also from the Lion King, of course. And even for how they tell the story and what type of elements I didn't want to put into this film, I sort of liked it, but at the same time, it sort of mixed on a lot of different levels. And even with Mufasa and Scar, for how they became brothers, and like telling like how like Mufasa was he was like a stray with the family, and I didn't want to take him in, but they didn't want to because it was not good for that as well. But even just with the movie in particular, like I just felt like so like bored, and this movie kind of felt unnecessary on why they would greenlit this movie. But even though I had fun with it, there are some good moments, and some of which like so sort of like The Lion King. But I did like it a little bit better than the live action remake of The Lion King, of course. But even with this movie in particular, that is a prequel, I would liked it better if it was told in animation, because like this was in animation. I would have had like so much real emotions like towards the animals. But sadly, this was not the case, because they decided to move forward with this movie, and it just turned out to be like a long chore to get through. And if this was shorter, I would have been so happy with that as well. But even just with Mufasa and the character alone, I felt like I was like rooting for this character, what he stands for. Plus, this is in like the household of greatest animated films. This was really for how his story is told. I thought it was very beautiful, and for how like what kind of reveals that he had, and what he had to do to protect everyone just to have him become king. But even with the character of Scar, it felt like it had no such impact of what this movie direction was, and I feel like just with the way that it looked, it kind of felt cash grabby to me, if you know what I mean. But and now with my main issues that I have with this movie is that I feel like some of it is unnecessary. Like what I mean by that is like there are like certain elements that I was not really quite interested in for how that this was gonna work as an origin story, specifically with Mufasa and Scar's. I thought we were going to get like history behind them or like questions answered, and specifically with Scar and how he was and how they went from brothers to enemies, because with Scar who will later go down the line to become the villain. But it just made me care less about these characters and for the way that Disney wanted to tell the story, because even with Mufasa and Scar that had to face a threat named like the Outsiders, because especially with these white lion hunters that were after them, and how like that story has opened up and with the way that they want to reveal things. But I felt like just with like everything that goes on in this movie, it sort of felt like it was definitely not needed. Even with the songs in this one, because I think they're from Lin-Manuel Miranda, who was one of the great singers. But I liked his music that was adapted in this film, but it sort of like felt good, but not as great. And even just like the original animated Lion King alone is like a lot more better than what we have right here. But I just felt like no sense of impact. Even with the storyline, it didn't make sense and it didn't feel right to me. It didn't even stand out for the way that it was supposed to. It didn't match the originality of what they wanted to tell, like aside from the story of the Lion King. Even with the director that they picked for this movie, Barry Jenkins, who was an Oscar-winning director. I mean, I don't know why they picked him to direct a prequel to the live-action 2019 movie, where that take on the animated film, it was an abomination. On top of that, you have the return of Pumbaa and Timon that are also from the live-action remake that reprise their roles. But I feel like, I mean, having them in there was well to serve the time. But in terms of the actual story and for where they wanted to take this, let's just say like I was not a fan of this. What I can agree on is that there are some slightly good performances, and mainly with Aaron Pereira that plays Mufasa. I definitely liked his like portrayal of the character and what it means and stands for. But even like aside from everything else, I agree on like on the stunning visuals. But the story itself, it was just not that good, because I feel like it's not gonna leave like an impact. Yeah, it was just not for me. But even though towards the end it did set up for what we're about to see in the actual Lion King movie, and that's how it's all set up. Yeah, I mean, this movie was made, and yeah, that's all I gotta say. So I gotta say, I mean, for my final thoughts is, I guess Mufasa The Lion King is sort of decent and solid, but it was not the greatest or the best Disney prequel for how it like stands out, especially to all the people that grew up with The Lion King. It's a bit better than the awful live-action remake of The Lion King, but still, it was just not the same. It was just not good. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and if you see Mufasa the Lion King, let me know in the comments below. And if you see the movie and give me a rating to 1 out of 10, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and turn the notification bell for future videos, and you also follow all my social medias over to the link down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.